Welcome, everyone. It'll be a few minutes before we start. This is Stuart Wiggins. I just want to remind you all you're on mute because of the number of people who will be participating. But if you do have a question that occurs to you during the seminar, you can type it in your questions panel. And Catherine Bear is here, and she'll try to answer the questions as she can during the seminar. If she doesn't get to all of them, either your client account executive or somebody from support will follow up after the webinar. So we'll start here in just a few minutes. It's just now the top of the hour, so we'll wait a few more minutes to see. I still see some people signing in, and we appreciate your patience. All right, everyone, I'm Stuart Wiggins, and we're here today to talk about the new features available in White Plume version 5.1.12, and those are using global period and date last seen. Our goals for today, we'll review these new features, what they actually do, how they're set up, how they work. We'll look at how it can be displayed in Excel Capture. We'll look at the Excel Smart Display, how that impacts your rule capability and your functionality there. The fact that you can incorporate provider specialty if you choose. We'll look at how the data is updated, and if you wish, how to import data. How are you certain that the new features are available? Well, first of all, you'll have to upgrade to version 5.1.12 that's already available. Verify that the archive option is active and your SQL job is set up, so when you tell support you're ready to do this, they'll look to make sure that option is turned on. This is an optional choice. Your Excel Capture user does not have to see this information. You have to choose to include it in your header design, and we'll work with your form rep. If you're charged passing, then this isn't relevant to you, but your users will see it in Excel Smart. Once this feature is turned on, we'll begin collecting the data from that point forward and being able to show your users, look, here is the expiration of the global date for this procedure. Look, here's the date the patient was last seen. But we will not have collected any info prior to that date. So if you wish to extract that information from your practice management system, we have a way to download that so it can incorporate, and you can look at the whole 3 years of date last seen or the whole 90 days of historic global periods. You'll be able to write or import custom rules now, so that if you want to alert, when not the fact that they can just see it, but that you can act on it when something appears to be marked incorrectly. They've missed the global period post-op visit. They've chosen a new when the patient has been seen recently, those type of things. Now, when it comes to adding it to your Excel Capture Encounter header, they are optional fields, as we said. You can choose to display your provider's specialty or not. Some of you already have specialty defined, and your historical diagnoses can be contextual to which provider is seeing or which specialty is seeing the patient. You can choose now to add specialty if for some reason you've not done it before. You could do it now, or you don't have to use it at all. The display fields for these new values can be linked or separate or even in separate tabs. Let me show you what I mean by that. So here, if you look in the upper right, there's a tab that says global periods. And there's my procedure code and the description and the expiration date of that global period. And next to that, we have the patient last seen date. Now, another way to do that is here we've used the same real estate in the middle of the header with two overlapping tabs. So if I were to click there, if this were interactive, I would see my historical diagnosis list. But here we've clicked on the second tab and I can see the same type of information. And then a third way would be to have three tabs: last seen, global, or historical diagnosis, or just to have three fields separate across the field wherever you want it to be seen and used by your user. Now in Excel Smart, those of you that have upgraded recently have noticed HCC values, historical diagnosis information, but this new information is in a button called Historical Procedures. You notice when I hover, you see the tooltip, and that information displays the end date, the specialty, if it was applicable for this provider in this service, the procedure, and the description, and the date last seen and specialty. Also, you might notice at the bottom, I have two edits that were built to alert me. One that says I cannot use a new patient evaluation and management code. The patient has been seen in the last 3 years. And I even have remedy codes available. I built a list of remedy codes for the established patient visit. If you want to look at how that is built, you can see we've said when the procedure starts with 9920 and the last seen date is between 0 and 3 years. So it's a pretty powerful tool. The patient is in a global period. You've not used a post-op code. So that one, when the global period end date is greater than the procedure from date, and there isn't a 99024. So several different ways, depending on how you code, on what you look for, what's important to you, that you can do this. Just to reiterate, the new edit attributes, edits can now include last seen date as a variable, last seen specialty, the global period procedure code, the global period procedure description, the end date of the global period, or specialty if you're using that for your global period. Now, so I've said specialty several times, and in ePass support maintenance, where you select the symbol and you have your provider list, you can double click on any provider and come in and add a specialty value. You see Rachel Chen is my ophthalmology, and Richard is my endocrinology, and Frank's is oncology, etc. So therefore, anytime that provider sees a patient, the historical diagnosis, the global period, or the date last seen are all categorized as belonging to that specialty. And when the patient comes in again, if a provider is in that specialty, they would see it. If they're not, they wouldn't. So this is the feature you can use. While this is a free text field, it starts to store your previous entries, so you'd be able to drop down and make sure that you're using one that you've already defined. Now, when is this data updated? Not every data element in our system updates at the same time, so you'll want to pay attention here and not presume that you know when this goes over, right? So when the encounter is completed in Excel Smart, then that night there is a daily or a nightly background process that updates it. So it doesn't happen immediately upon completion in Excel Smart. That puts it in a queue, and then a nightly job moves it over into the database ready to display. If you want to import historical values from your practice management system, we can help you with that. We can give you a spreadsheet format, and those dates can be added using a utility in ePass support maintenance. Now, our purpose today was to talk about global period and to talk about date last seen, but there's another feature that's pretty recent that a lot of people are excited about, and I wanted to mention the hard stop of critical edits. So in custom edits, you have the ability to set a diagnosis stage. So it can be critical, warning, informational. there will now be the option to prevent the completion of critical edits. It requires a manager permission to override. So you can ask us and we can get that turned on for you. The way that might look is you try to complete the batch and you get a message that says, please fix your critical edits before completing the batch. To view only critical edits, use the filter button in the validation results. And so the filter button here on the left, you can deselect warning, deselect informational, and you'd only be seeing the critical warnings. If you go ahead and fix the fact that you've changed the new patient E&M to an established, then you can revalidate and send, and you wouldn't get that message. But if for some reason you say, well, this is right, and I didn't get this set up, and I need to override that, there are permissions that can be assigned to that, and that user can come in and click override. So typically this would be a supervisor or manager. She'd put in her user ID and password and gets to choose. Am I going to give this person full permission to keep overriding until this episode of Excella Smart is closed? Am I going to give them permission just until they validate again, or just for this encounter? So you've got some control over how much leeway you give the user to override those critical hard stops. That's really all we had for you today. We wanted to underscore these new features, make sure you got your eyes on them, could kind of understand the benefit and the power of them. Catherine, did we have any questions that haven't been addressed?
We did not have any questions.
Okay, guys.
So thanks for being attentive.
Right. Well, so certainly if you wanted to go to that question panel and ask any questions, we'll hang on here for another minute or so. But other than that, we appreciate it. Certainly call us if you want to have follow-up conversations, and thank you for your time.